Good morning, Year 9. I hope you've had a lovely weekend and you are ready for your Tuesday work. So as always on Tuesday, you've got your 20 questions, which you should already have done, and you're going to spend the last kind of 20-25 minutes marking them using this video. So obviously we'll start at the beginning. So it is an estimate question. So as with all the other ones we've done, they want you to estimate them to the first significant figure, okay? So here we've got 5,902, okay? So we look at the 5 and then we look at the number next to it. Well, that's a 9, so that's 5 or above. So we're going to round that one up to 6,000. Then we're adding, so we'll add an addition sign in the middle. The next one-to-one significant figure, we've got a 3, so we've got 3,000, but the next number is a 9, so we're going to have to round up. So it becomes 6,000 plus 4,000, okay? And then we just add those together and we've got our answer. So our answer to this one would be 10,000. Next one then, so this is a multiplication. So again, we're estimating, so to one significant figure. So we've got a 4 in the tens column, but we've got a 5 in the unit. So we're going to have to round up to 50. We're doing a multiplication, so pop that in there. Then the next one says 56, okay? So we've got a 5 in our first column, but we've got a 6 in the next, so we're going to have to round that up to 60. So we would do 50 times 60. So 5 times the 6 is 30, and then we add in the 2 zeros, so we get 3,000 as our answer to that one. Okay, up next we're timesing fractions, which is our favourite one to do. So we're just going to times the numerators. So 2 times 1 is 2. And then we're going to times the denominators. So 8 times 2 is 16. So we've got 2/16. But we want to make sure it's in its lowest form. So we can half both of those, can't we? So half of 2 is 1 and half of 16 is 8. So our final answer for that one would be 1/8. Next one then, so same thing again. So times the numerators, 2 times 1 is 2, times the denominators, 3 times 2 is 6. Oh, but once again, we can simplify that, can't we? So if we divide both by 2, we're going to get 1/3. Okay, so a third is our answer to that one. Okay, so up next, we're doing some division. So now it is division with pounds, and it's obviously got a decimal point in there. Just make sure you write all those out, okay? So we want to know how many 5s fit into £223.50. So how many 5s go into 2? Well, none at all. How many 5s go into 22? Well, 4 times 5 is 20, but I've got 2 left over, so I'll write my 2 there. So now I've got 23. Well, how many 5s go into 23? Well, I'm going to fit 4 in again, but this time I've got 3 left over. So don't forget to pop your decimal point in the same place. So now I'm asking myself, how many 5s go into 35? Well, that's 7. And then finally, how many 5s go into 0? Well, none at all. So my final answer is £44.70. Perfect. Okay, so the same for this one. We want to know how many 4s go into £297.20. So how many 4s fit into 2? None. How many 4s fit into 29? Well, I know that 7 times 4 is 28, so I can put a 7 there, but I've got a 1 left over there, okay? So now I want to know how many 4s fit into 17. Well, I know that 4 4s are 16, so I'd have 1 left over. So now I want to know how many 4s go into 12, but don't forget my decimal point, which I'm going to pop there. So 3 4s fit into 12 with none left over, so I can just leave my last number as 0, and I know that no 4s fit into 0. So I've got my final answer there of £74.30. Okay, so next we're expanding our bracket. So we always draw the same lines here, don't we? We want to multiply what's on the outside with everything on the inside. So we need to do 6x times 2x, and we need to do 6x times 11, okay? So let's start with 6x times 2x. Well, 6 times 2 is 12, and then x times x is x squared, because when you times something by itself, that's the square. Then I'm going to put my addition symbol. So next I need to do 6x times 11. Well, 6 times 11 is 66, and I've got my x. So my final answer there is 12x squared plus 66x. Okay, so next up we can draw the same line. So we want to do 5x times 2x and we want to do 5x times minus 3. So 5 times 2 is 10, and then we've got x times x, which is x squared, and then we've got 5 times minus 3 is minus 15, and then we've got our x to pop in as well. Okay, so we should have 10x squared minus 15x. Okay, so next up we want to express 93% as a fraction in its lowest form. So if we remember, percentages are always out of 100. So we can just write 93 out of 100. So we know that that fraction is correct, but it does say in its lowest form. However, it doesn't go any lower because there's not a number that goes into both 93 and 100 that we can divide it by. So that's our final answer there, okay? Now the next one's very similar, so it says express 91% as a fraction in its lowest form. So we know that it's 91 and a percentage is out of 100, so we can write it like that. Now it does ask for it in its lowest form, but again, we can't have, there is nothing lower, okay, because as we've said, there's no common factor between them, okay, so 91 out of 100 is our final answer there. Okay, so highest common factor. So we're going to do our factor pairs again for 120 and then 135. So let's start with 120. So we know that 1 times 120, oh, that should be a 2. Sorry, I left the pen on a bit long there. Okay, we also know that 2 times 60. We know that 3 times 40. We know that it's 4 times 30. We know that it's 5 times 24. We can do 6 times 20. We can do 8 times 15. And we can do 10 times 12. Now that really has rather filled up our space there, hasn't it? So I will try and write the other ones above, but maybe I'll use a different colour, okay? So we'll swap over, we'll go to a light blue. Okay, so now we've got 135 and we want to know all the different factor pairs of that. Okay, so we should get 1 and 35, obviously. Now it's not an even number, so we can't have 2, but we can have 3 and 45. So we'll have 3 and 45, and then we can have 5 and 27. So we'll pop that one down. And then we can have 9 and 15, okay? So we'll pop 9 and 15. So those are the only factors of 135. So now we are looking for the highest number that appears in both of them, which, if we have a careful look, is indeed going to be 15, okay? So we can see 15 here, and we can see 15 here, okay? So 15 is our highest common factor of those two. Okay, next up, so we have got find the lowest common multiple of 20 and 30. So we're going to do our 20 times table. So we've got 20, 40, 60. Now I know I don't need to go any further than that because if I go my 30 times table, I go 30 and then 60. So the lowest number that appears in both of those times tables is 60, and that is our final answer there, okay? So next up, if you remember, we're working with negative numbers here, okay? So we know that if we've got a positive and a positive, or a negative and a negative, we're going to end up with a positive. But if we've got a negative and a positive, we're going to end up with a negative. So here, we've got a positive and a negative. So we're going to end up with a negative. So 10 times 1 is 10, but it's minus 10 because the symbols are different. Okay, same for this one. So we are working with a positive and we are working with a negative. 81 is positive, minus 9 is negative. So I know that it's going to start with a negative. Now we can do 81 divided by 9s. How many 9s go into 81? Well, it's a square number, so there's 9. So my answer is simply minus 9. Okay, so we've run out of time on this video, so make sure you tune into video number 2 to mark the last 6 questions.